Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are tackling a subject today that, well, it feels like it's straight out of a sci-fi novel, but, and I really can't stress this enough, it is happening right now.
It's happening as we speak.
We're talking about AI and democracy.
And it's a massive topic, maybe the biggest one we've covered.
It is, but I want to start by throwing out a common misconception. When most of us hear AI in politics, we immediately think of the loud stuff.
Yeah, the flashy thing.
We think of deepfakes, right? Those, robotic voice cloning scams or bots arguing on Twitter.
Or a video of a candidate saying something they never actually said. That's the headline-grabbing stuff. It's designed to get your attention.
Exactly. But the material we're digging into today, specifically a really fascinating review by AI thought leader Johan Steyn of a new book called Rewiring Democracy, it suggests the real story is, it's kind of boring.
But boring in the most dangerous way possible. That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah, the book's by Schneier, who is, a legend in the security world.
Oh, yeah, everyone knows his work.
And Nathan E. Sanders, a data scientist who specializes in something called participatory policymaking. And their whole argument is that while we're all distracted by the shiny, scary stuff,
Deepfakes.
AI is currently being installed into the quiet plumbing of government itself.
The plumbing. That doesn't sound very sexy.
It's not supposed to be. I mean, we're talking about the invisible pipes and gears that actually make a government run. We're talking about the bureaucracy.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because usually when people hear bureaucracy, their eyes glaze over.
They think of the DMV.
They think of waiting in line, yeah. But you're saying this is where the real action is.
Think about it this way. Democracy isn't just election day. That's just the kickoff, Governance is what happens between elections.
Day to day.
It's drafting laws, deciding which companies get audited, monitoring compliance. Steyn points out that the book maps how AI is shifting from being a subject of regulation to becoming the tool of governance.
So AI isn't just the thing on the table. It's now sitting at the head of the table.
In a lot of ways, yes. And so the mission for this deep dive is to understand what that shift means for you, because it changes the power dynamic between the citizen and the state in ways we haven't really grappled with yet.
And before we get too dark, because this is starting to sound a little dystopian, I was surprised to see the authors, and Steyn in his review, describe the book's stance as advisedly optimistic.
They do. They are not doom-mongers. They're saying, look, this is happening. The rewiring is underway, but the cement hasn't dried yet. We still have agency.
But the window to use that agency is open now.
It's open right now.
Okay, so let's get into this plumbing. You mentioned drafting legislation. I think most people assume, politicians write the laws. Or maybe their exhausted staffers write them at 2 in the morning. How does AI fit in?
This is where it gets really fascinating. And honestly, this was a huge aha moment for me in the source material. It all goes back to the difference between a vague law and a really specific one.
Okay, give me an example.
So historically, when Congress or a parliament writes a law, they often have to keep it a little vague.
Right, because they can't predict every single scenario.
Exactly. So they might write a law that says factories must minimize pollution.
Minimize. That's a squishy word. Who decides what that means?
That is the million-dollar question. In our current system, because the law is broad, the power gets handed over to the agencies, the executive branch, like the EPA, to figure out the details. They write the specific regulations. They're the ones who decide minimize means, say, under 50 parts per billion.
So the politicians write the headline, but the agencies write the fine print. And that's where the real power lies.
Correct. It's a concept called administrative discretion. But, and this is the key, the authors argue that AI could fundamentally flip this.
How?
Well, imagine you have an AI model that's digested every environmental study, every economic impact report, all of it. You could use that AI to help draft legislation that isn't vague at all. You could create laws that are incredibly complex and specific.
So instead of minimize pollution, the law could say, if the factory produces widget A, the limit is X. If it produces widget B, the limit is Y. If it's raining, the limit is Z.
Precisely. And here's the kicker. If the law is that precise,
there's nothing left to interpret.
Exactly. There's no room for interpretation.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Okay.
If the law covers everything, the agency doesn't get to decide anything.
Boom. You've just, technically stripped the executive branch of its discretionary power. The power shifts back to the legislative branch, away from the regulator.
That is wild. So just by using a smarter spell checker, essentially, you're fundamentally altering the checks and balances of the government without ever amending the Constitution.
That's exactly it. It subtly rewires the internal balance of the state, and most people would never even notice it. It's a silent constitutional crisis.
Wow, the perfect definition of a hidden operating system. Okay, so that's the people writing laws. What about the people enforcing them, the executive branch? I assume AI is already doing heavy lifting there.
It is, and this is where the rubber really meets the road for the average person. Think about resources. Governments have limited money, limited manpower.
Sure, they can't inspect every restaurant or audit every tax return.
So they have to choose. And usually that choice is made by humans who are, well, they're flawed, they can be biased or just tired.
Or they just audit the people they don't like.
Right. So the promise of AI here is consistency, the efficiency argument. And AI can scan massive amounts of data and prioritize enforcement based on statistical risk, not a hunch.
I get the efficiency part, sure. But fairer? That feels like a stretch. If the AI is trained on data from a system that's already unfair, are we just automating the unfairness?
You've hit on the exact problem the authors highlight. It's the classic garbage in, garbage out problem, but with, incredibly high stakes. If historical data shows a certain neighborhood has always been policed more heavily,
the AI just learns crime happens here.
And it sends even more police there.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. And because it's buried in code, often proprietary code from a private vendor, it's very hard to see. It's not a biased sheriff you can vote out. It's a variable in an algorithm that uses zip code as a proxy for risk.
That's terrifying because it creates this illusion of neutrality. Oh, I didn't target you, the computer did.
Yes, it washes the hands of the official. Steyn emphasizes this heavily. Technical sophistication without democratic accountability is not progress. It's just hiding power behind a screen.
Let's move to the third branch.
Yeah.
The judiciary, the courts. Anyone who's dealt with the legal system knows it is.
Slow.
Oh.
So slow.
Yeah.
And expensive. Overwhelming.
It's the biggest bottleneck.
Yeah.
So is AI the savior here? Can we get a robo-judge to speed things up?
I mean, the temptation is massive. There are tools that can scan case law, suggest arguments, even predict outcomes, and they can speed up justice. In a world where justice delayed is justice denied, speed is a virtue.
But I'm sensing another but.
The book warns about outsourcing reasoning. It means judges and lawyers might start relying on the AI's recommendation without understanding why it made that recommendation.
So if the AI says, President suggests this ruling, and the judge just clicks accept because they have a backlog of 500 cases.
Who's really doing the judging?
The algorithm is. The judge just becomes a rubber stamp.
And this is where we need to bring in Johan Steyn's specific context, because he looks at this through the lens of South Africa.
Okay, why is that important?
Because South Africa, like many places, has profound historic inequality, a huge gap between wealthy and poor. So in that context, Steyn asks, if you introduce expensive, high-powered legal AI, who gets to use it?
The corporate legal team charging $1,000 an hour.
Exactly. And who doesn't get it? The citizen in a township trying to fight an eviction.
So the digital divide becomes a justice divide.
It could, yes. If the system becomes so complex you need a super AI to find the winning argument, then justice becomes a luxury good. And that's a choice we have to make. It is not inevitable.
I want to zoom out a bit. We've talked about the branches of government, but the book seems to have this broader theory about what democracy actually is.
Yes, and this is one of the most interesting parts of Rewiring Democracy. They suggest we stop thinking of democracy as this, sacred, abstract ideal and start viewing it as an information system.
An information system. That sounds a little cold. Break that down for me.
Okay, think of democracy like a massive group chat.
That sounds incredibly chaotic.
It is. You've got 300 million people typing at once. Fix the roads, lower my taxes, save the whales.
And the government is the poor moderator trying to scroll through all that.
Right now, yes. And because they can't possibly read every message, they rely on representatives. We vote for one person to go speak for 100,000 of us. It's a compression algorithm.
But the authors argue AI changes the bandwidth.
Fundamentally, if democracy is an information system, AI is a massive upgrade to the processor. Suddenly, the system can read all those messages, it can group them, summarize them, but this leads to two very different paths.
Okay, path A and path B. What's path A?
Path A is the risk. It's where the information system is optimized for control. The government uses that processing power to segment citizens into micro-targeted echo chambers.
They manage you.
They manage you. It automates surveillance to a level that was impossible a generation ago.
Okay, that's the dark path. What's path B?
Path B is the optimistic one. This is where Nathan Sanders' background in participatory policymaking really shines.
What does that mean in practice?
It means moving beyond just voting. Imagine you want to weigh in on a new city zoning law. Right now, to do that, you'd have to read a 500-page PDF full of legalese.
No one's doing that. I do this for a living, and I don't want to do that.
Exactly. So only the lobbyists read the PDF. But in Path B, an AI could digest that document for you. It could explain the trade-offs in plain English. It could answer your specific questions like, how will this affect traffic on my street?
So it's a translator between the bureaucracy and the human.
Yes. And then it helps you articulate your feedback. So it's not just an angry tweet. It helps you draft a substantive comment. It turns tech support into a democratic superpower.
That really lowers the barrier to entry for citizenship. That's a compelling vision.
It is. It allows for deliberation at scale. Instead of online shouting matches, AI could help aggregate public input, finding common ground.
But, and I feel like I'm the one bringing the rain today, we have to choose path B. It doesn't happen by accident.
No, the default is usually control, not empowerment. And that brings us to the stakeholders. Who needs to do what?
Okay, let's start with the policymakers. What's the message for them?
The message is, wake up. You have to stop treating AI as some peripheral IT issue. Oh, let the IT department handle procurement. No, these are now democratic choices.
Buying a system that decides who gets welfare isn't like buying printer paper.
Not at all. And the authors argue you need designs that give parliaments and civil society real leverage. You cannot leave these decisions to vendors. You can't just sign a contract that says the algorithm is a trade secret.
If it's governing us, we have a right to see the code.
That is incompatible with democracy. Which brings us to the business leaders building this stuff.
We hear a lot about neutrality in tech.
And Johan Steyn is very clear on this. He calls it the fallacy of neutrality. There is no such thing as neutral code.
It's just math. Math can't be political.
It's nonsense. Companies building these tools are encoding value judgments. They are deciding what risk and relevance look like. If they pretend to be neutral, they are just handing power to whoever is already advantaged.
And finally, the listener. You, listening right now.
Yeah.
Why should you add AI policy to your list of worries?
Because if you decide this is too technical or boring, the system will be optimized for the interests of the wealthy and the influential. That's the default setting. It's the path of least resistance.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, but on a massive algorithmic scale.
The book is really a call to engage. It's a reminder that democracy is not a spectator sport. If we want tools that help us understand policy, we have to demand them.
So engaging in democracy now means asking things like, how did that algorithm work? Or who owns the data?
It's a new kind of civic literacy. Just like we learned how a bill becomes a law, the next generation needs to understand how a data set becomes a policy.
That's a huge shift in what it means to be a citizen.
It is. Steyn puts it beautifully. He says, this is about whether the next generation grows up in a system where technology deepens their voice, or one where decisions are made by algorithms they never get to see.
And that really raises the stakes. We're not just talking about efficiency, we're talking about legitimacy.
Absolutely. If people start believing decisions are made by accountable humans, trust in democracy collapses. If the computer says no, and there's no appeal, and no one can explain why, well, that's not democracy.
It's bureaucracy by black box.
Exactly.
So let's recap. We've covered the plumbing, how AI is rewriting the rules. We've looked at democracy as a giant information system that can either control or empower us. And we've looked at the responsibility on all of us to treat this like policy, not magic.
A solid summary.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with one final thought.
I think the most provocative question from all this is about values.
How so?
Well, we already accept that algorithms filter our movies, our music, our dates, right? We trust Spotify to know what we want to hear.
Sure, it's convenient.
But are we ready to accept that an algorithm might soon understand the values of our laws better than the judges we appoint?
That's a heavy question.
I mean, if an AI can analyze 50 years of case law and say, actually, based on the data, the spirit of the law implies X, are we ready to listen to that? Or is there something uniquely human about justice, the ability to show mercy, maybe? That data can never capture.
Because if the AI is objectively better at interpreting the law, do we hold on to human judges just for nostalgia? Or is the error in human judgment actually where the humanity lives?
That is the question we are going to have to answer, and probably sooner than we think.
Wow. Okay, on that note, which is absolutely going to keep me up tonight, we are going to sign off. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden operating system of our democracy.
It's been a pleasure. Stay curious and stay engaged.
See you next time.